Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a look at some very fun battles for the Open Grey League featuring a triple bug theme team. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Firestar73, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now it goes without saying, running 3 bug types not going to be the typical recipe for success, not a team I'd recommend if you're looking to gain elo. However, Firestar is able to go on a pretty crazy run with the team against all odds. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and take a look at 3 bugs in the Open Grey League. And he's off to a great start in the first match, leading Araquanid into Dugong, but this Araquanid is actually not running Bug Buzz. Instead, it's opting for Water Pulse. And with 3 bug types on the team, I guess it makes sense to try and have a little bit of extra coverage. Opponent is going to send in Skarmory, and Skarmory is going to be met with a Shadow Fortress. Seeing Skarmory at all in Season 20 is a bit of a surprise, but here it is, and it's having a pretty terrible day going up against Fortress. Fortress gets that guaranteed Rock Tomb debuff. Brave Bird comes through, dealing massive damage, but thanks to the debuff, Fortress withstands the damage, Volt switches down, and exits with energy. Back in comes Dugong, and how is this their best response to an energy lead Fortress? That Rock Tomb connects, dealing massive damage. Opponent gets a snipe with a Poliwrath, and this could get a little bit tricky. Araquanid, of course, is going to be a wall to energy from the Poliwrath, but the Araquanid can't really damage the Poliwrath either. So Araquanid is just going to start stacking up these Bubble Beam debuffs, hoping against hope that with enough debuffs, it will be possible to get rid of Poliwrath. Poliwrath finally makes it to a charge move, going for the Icy Wind. We now see a switch out into Scizor. Scizor farming up, gonna make it to a Trailblaze. Trailblaze should be able to pick up the knockout here. It's super effective damage, but the opponent says no, as they're going to save the energy on Poliwrath and quick switch into the Dugong. Scizor, no shields, calling the Icy Wind bait. That's a very big call. Scizor able to make it to a Night Slash. I didn't see a counter sneak through. Is this a CMP tie here? Oh, it's not. So the opponent is going to get the farm down, but the opponent, they're just out of shields. And Araquanid, just by Bubble Beam after Bubble Beam and some bullet punches from the Scizor, is actually going to be able to take this win as Water Pulse knocks out the Poliwrath and takes the game. Picking up a fairly neutral lead in the next match, Araquanid versus the Shadow Drapion. Drapion, of course, things could get out of hand quickly if it does get one of its patented crunch debuffs. And that's what they're going for right off the bat, crunch into the Araquanid, and we do see a defense drop. That is unfortunate. He's going to look to lower their attack right back with a Bubble Beam, and the Bubble Beam does get shielded up by the opponent. We now see a save switch into the Fortress, opponent staying in to throw energy. This is pretty good because this is a -1 crunch. Although that's still going to do a ton of damage. The Shadow Fortress doesn't take hits like the regular one does. Opponent going to fire off another crunch. And now they're going to switch out into Chestnut. And this is unfortunate. Chestnut, of course, a complete wall to the moveset here. Rock Tomb going to be resisted. The Earthquake resisted as well. And Chestnut is going to look to secure a knockout here with a superpower. Oh, they're actually on Thunder Punch. Oh my goodness, I am shocked. Normally we do see Chestnut on that Frenzy Plan superpower moveset, but this trainer opts for Thunder Punch instead. Quick switch into the Scizor, and Scizor will fire off the Trailblaze on the CMP tie to the next Thunder Punch. Trailblaze is going to be shielded. Opponent wants the damage on the Scizor. Tough choice to make, going to let the Scizor go. Thunder Punch is going to get it very low. In comes Mandibuzz. Unfortunately, not going to make another Trailblaze. So just going to settle for the boosted Night Slash. Night Slash is going to land. Back in comes the Fortress. Fortress really wants to get to a double Rock Tomb. Aerial Ace going to be shielded up, under tapping the Rock Tomb. And the opponent is getting pretty close to making their next move. The Rock Tomb is going to land. We're going to see a switch to the Araquanid as the opponent fires off this debuffed Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace not going to do a ton of damage here. Mandibuzz staying in. There's the switch out to a Chestnut, but it doesn't get a move. It gets farmed down. In comes the Drapion, going to click the Water Pulse, go for a full undercharge to get a little bit of extra farm, and just stop tapping because he wants the farm on his Fortress. Aqua Tail KOs. Fortress gets the farm down. In comes the Mandibuzz. It should be 2 away, and the Fortress takes it. Things look doomed in the mid game there, but what a come from behind win as Fortress gets the energy it needs to barely outpace and take the game. Picking up a great lead in the next match, Araquanid into Feraligatr. Opponent safe switches into Goodra, and this team doesn't have an amazing response to Goodra, going to send in the Shadow Scizor. But Scizor is very frail. These Dragon Breaths on paper are resisted, but they definitely do not look resisted, as, oh my goodness, it is just getting shredded with these fast moves. Scizor can't get the farm down without Goodra making another Aqua Tail. Just going to fire off the Night Slash, and the opponent is just going to let that through. In comes Feraligatr. Feraligatr, oh, gets the farm down, or it would have if Scizor tried to get the Trailblaze, so Scizor can only make it to a Night Slash. In comes Araquanid. In the back is Ariados. And Ariados, I mean, it's really not going to appreciate the Shadow Fortress. Trailblaze from the Ariados, looking to boost up its attack. And Firestar is going to put that attack right back down with a Bubble Beam. Bubble Beam has landed. In comes the Fortress. And Fortress will be able to apply debuffs of its own with Rock Tomb. Ariados is going to fire off the lunge, looking to decrease the damage output from the Fortress. Fortress returning fire with the Rock Tomb. This is a guaranteed shield from the opponent if they want to win. It's going to be on the back of that Ariados. In comes Feraligatr. Fortress lets it go, but that Hydro Cannon does massive damage. And now it's all up to Araquanid to try and win, but I think the Feraligatr is just going to do too much damage. Hydro Cannon lands. Araquanid now rapidly approaching the red health. Back in comes the Ariados, and it's all over. The opponent managed to play their way out of a very difficult situation, as Ariados is just going to get an outpace here. He's going to go for the Hail Mary Win Con, which is the Water Pulse. Water Pulse shielded up by the Ariados. Ariados is going to be able to take a knockout here with a lunge. So very well played by the opponent, as that did look quite scary for them for a bit. Moving to the next match, Araquanid versus Pangoro. A great lead for Araquanid. Opponents staying in. And if they're staying in with the Pangoro, then they must have something in the back that is also weak to Bug. They're going for the Night Slash, hoping for the boost, but the boost is not to be. Another Night Slash fired off by the Panda, and Pangoro is actually outputting some pretty solid damage onto the Araquanid. Araquanid overfarming quite significantly, and now going to go for a Bubble Beam bait, hoping for the shield. Does not get the shield. The opponent calling the bait, but now this Night Slash will be a lot less effective. Night Slash into Araquanid, not going to do a ton of damage. We're going to see a switch, a catch, and a sneak as Fortress enters the field of play. Night Slash not going to do a ton of damage. In comes Drapion, and this is by no means a hard counter to a Bug type. So if Drapion is their best answer, then hopefully the Shadow Scizor can do well in the back. Crunch is shielded up as Fortress looks to reduce this damage output with a well-timed Rock Tomb. The Rock Tomb does get the shield from the opponent, which is very good, and this next move is definitely survivable as it is going to be debuffed. The Crunch will connect. Fortress very low, but able to survive. These Poison Stings doing less than nothing, making it to the Rock Tomb. The opponent is going to let that through, and now we see an aggressive switch into the Shadow Scizor. Scizor absorbing that Aqua Tail. It does not do a lot. In the back is Dugong, and now we see why they couldn't switch out, because they were core broken by the Araquanid. Scizor are going to start firing off Trailblazes here. Trailblaze shielded up by the Dugong, and it's highly likely the Dugong is just going to go straight Icy Wind. The Scizor is low enough that the Icy Wind does need to be respected. Farming up, opponent tries for a catch, but the catch attempt is unsuccessful, and now Dugong is going to get smacked with a Trailblaze. Trailblaze into the Dugong, picks up the knockout, and that game will end in victory. Hopping into the next match, Araquanid versus the Shadow Marowak. This matchup, the Marowak, despite the fact that Mud Slap is resisted, can make it pretty close just due to the fact that Marowak, of course, does have access to super effective Rock Slide. The first Rock Slide is going to be shielded up. We're going to see a big overfarm from the Araquanid. Araquanid's looking for the knockout blow here, going straight for the Water Pulse. Water Pulse does get shielded, the opponent respecting it. And now, just going to follow up with a Bubble Beam, so that way the Araquanid can more comfortably tank. Oh, they double shield. So the Araquanid can more comfortably tank the Rock Slide, but with a double shield, honestly, you have two pretty glassy Bug types in the back. I think that honestly works out pretty well. Opponent is going to be firing off another move from the Marowak. Marowak goes for the Rock Slide and then will pick up the knockout. In comes Shadow Scizor. Opponent going to pivot out into Toxapex, and they're going to regret that decision as Fortress hits the field of play. Fortress is an absolute worst case scenario for Toxapex, as Toxapex is just doing less than nothing here with these poison jabs. An overfarm by the Fortress, looking to pick up a knockout with the Earthquake. Earthquake does do that, and down goes Toxapex. So this is still a pretty healthy Fortress. It has a shield. In comes the Marowak, and Marowak will fire off its energy. Firestar just gonna let this through. It gets the KO. It's all up to Scizor to try and sweep, and it's a Dugong in the back. And oh my goodness, does this team love to see Dugong trailblaze, massive damage. Dugong barely hanging on as it makes it to the last second move. But Scizor should be able to shield, just bullet punch down and take this game. And Scizor does get that bullet punch down just barely. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Tough lead in the next match. Araquanid into Dunsparce. Araquanid is going to throw a couple fast moves and then save switch into the Shadow Fortress. Opponent going to stay in and look to connect with a drill run before they eventually look to pivot out here. Opponent actually goes for a rock slide. That is the wrong move to go for there, as drill run will do slightly more damage, but they're going to switch out into Chestnut. And man, it is a bad day to have rock ground coverage when Chestnut hits the field of play. Fortress over-farming quite a bit. Chestnut looking to fire off a charge attack. This will be debuffed. Superpower does still pick up the knockout, and in comes Araquanid. Araquanid, we're actually going to see a switch out now into the Scizor, attempting to catch a potential Frenzy Plant, but unfortunately it's not to be. Chestnut is now going to get to fire off back-to-back superpowers. The first one is shielded, the second one is not. That does so much damage. In the back is Dugong, but even with Dugong being the final Pokemon and this team being so strong in a Dugong, the biggest issue is still going to be that Dunsparce. Dugong can just go straight for the Icy Wind. We will see the shield from the Scizor. Scizor now debuffed. We're going to see a switch out to the Araquanid. Araquanid is going to get a full farm down. But this Dunsparce is still very, very healthy. This is going to be a difficult game to win. Going for the Bubble Beam. Dunsparce calls it, holding on to those two shields. Another Bubble Beam fired off. Just trying to get as many debuffs applied to the Dunsparce as possible. But the opponent switches out. They reset the debuffs. Chestnut gets fully farmed down, but now these are non-debuffed rock slides fired off by the Dunsparce, and that does quite a lot of damage. We're going to see the Bubble Beam fired by the Araquanid. At this point, the opponent has to start shielding something, so they will be shielding up the Bubble Beam. Farming up quite a bit of energy here. Unfortunately, no catch comes through. This rock slide is debuffed, but the Araquanid is too low. It will get knocked out. Scizor looking to go for a boost, going to try and bullet punch down here to take victory. Dunsparce commits the shield, and they have the move. So unfortunately, honestly, the game got a lot closer than I expected with how bad of a lead that was, but the game will end in a loss. Picking up a terrible lead in the next match, Araquanid into Dragonite. We see a save switch into the Shadow Fortress. Opponent is going to bank a bunch of energy and now send out Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn will be taking some pretty substantial damage from Earthquake. Earthquake does hit for neutral. We actually see a shield from the Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn, I believe, will need 2 charge attacks to pick up the knockout here. They go for the Thunder, but Thunder is not enough to knock out. And these double resisted bullet seeds are doing less than nothing. Earthquake number 2 fired off by the Ferrothorn, and this one finds its target. Ferrothorn is going to be firing off another charge attack. Immediate no shield. If you're not going to shield the Thunder, you're definitely not going to be shielding the Power Whip. In comes the Shadow Scizor. Scizor looking to get a big energy head start. Going to be shielding as a Thunder would do some pretty substantial damage. But this Scizor energy lead can be very valuable because the opponent cannot afford to bring Dragonite in, nor can they afford to bring in Serperior. Serperior not going to appreciate so much energy on this Scizor. Serperior very reliant on landing Aerial Aces to do any meaningful damage. But as long as the Scizor is good with the energy management, the opponent should be in some pretty severe trouble. Going to overfarm quite a bit, look to pick up a knockout with a Night Slash. Serperior does not hang on, and that means this game should end in victory, as the Scizor just has way too much energy. Dragonite shields, but there's another Night Slash ready to go. This will do massive damage to the Dragonite. Dragonite doesn't even survive to get a farm down as Scizor emerges victorious. We see a nightmare lead in the next match, Araquanid versus Talonflame, and this should basically just be an instant loss for this team, as any kind of fire type will just absolutely destroy. Fly is going to connect. I think there's one chance, and it's this Water Pulse. Come on, opponent. Do not respect it. Water Pulse does get shielded. And I think Talonflame might 1v3 here, if I'm being honest. Talonflame is going to go for the fly. Talonflame choosing to stay in because why not? These Incinerates do so much damage. Firing off the Rock Tomb is Fortress. Opponent is going to shield, get a farm down, and what do? In comes Araquanid. Opponent is going to fire off its energy. Araquanid going to be shielding up the fly. Araquanid trying to make it to a move, but it can't get there. And this is where running a team that has one enormous weakness can come back to bite you. In comes Scizor, opponent kind enough to switch out. So at the very least, Firestar does get to see one of the other Pokemon on the team. So it won't just be a full 1v3 by the Talonflame. No shields left for the Scizor. Opponent still going for an Icy Wind. They just want to undo this attack boost. Scizor is going to get a full farm down. I guess the win con is like a Gastrodon in the back, and that you can KO the Talonflame with an Night Slash. It's a Carbink, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Rock throws do too much neutrally. The Trailblaze is going to land, and Carbink does get the farm down to take the win. Hopping into the final match, Araquanid versus Azumarill. Not off to a good start in this final match. I guess you can bank a bunch of energy on the Araquanid and then look to save it for later. Like, you could just tank a Play Rough and then look to switch out into the Fortress. So we're going to see a ton of energy farmed up here by the Araquanid, and there it is, the switch to the Fortress. Opponent bringing in a Drapion, so they are very, very weak to Bug Steel types. Drapion by no means is considered to be a hard counter to Fortress. We will see the Crunch defense drop, which is always unfortunate, but since it's the Shadow Drapion, a second Crunch was going to be lethal anyway. At this point, you can just let this go and then put the energy that was saved on the Araquanid to good use. In comes the Araquanid. Araquanid now going to fire off a Water Pulse. Opponent is already down a shield. They're unlikely to double shield, and they're just going to let that through. So the Drapion has effectively been neutralized. They go for a Crunch. We're going to see an aggressive switch to the Scizor to get a 1-bullet punch head start. The opponent sends in the Azumarill, and that's a very good sign. If Azumarill is their best answer to a Scizor up energy, then I don't think they have an answer to a Scizor up energy. Scizor looking to overfarm quite a bit, now going to fire off the super effective Trailblaze, looking to boost up its attack. Trailblaze into the Azumarill does get shielded. Looks like the opponent not a big fan of the Scizor. Scizor going to double shield, and now Scizor can seriously look to overfarm. In the back is Serperior. Serperior could do quite a lot of damage with an Aerial Ace. That is something to watch out for here. The Night Slash is going to do big damage, and there's the catch. Able to preserve the Scizor for later, catching the Aerial Ace, and back in comes Scizor. Scizor no longer boosted, but gonna overfarm as much as possible, playing to the CMP tie. Night Slash is going to knock out Serperior. Back in comes Azumarill, but Azumarill just does not have the energy. Shadow Scizor, Trailblaze, KOs Azumarill, and that is a good game. All in all, these are some extremely fun battles, so many thanks to Firestar for sending in the team. It goes without saying, running 3 bug types. I did enjoy getting to make a bit of a pun with the title about there being bugs in Go Battle League, but 3 bug types, definitely more of a team for fun than for climbing, but nevertheless, very fun to watch in action. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.